right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. My most favorite years were the years when I was a young dad. I loved being a dad, and it's a cherished time. And if you are a young parent right now, it goes fast. Before you know it, my son is now 31, going to be 32 in July.
Yeah.
That's almost hard to believe. He's earning way more money than I ever have, and just is doing so well. I'm so proud of him. But I can remember in his beginning years, sitting with him and talking about the ABCs and taking him to zoos and helping him just kind of learn the world around him. And it was just, oh my gosh, what a joy for me. Do you know one of the things we don't remember or don't realize? Like I was thinking about this the other day. I used to carry him on my shoulders all the time.
Yes.
And I don't know the last time I pulled him off my shoulders. I should go to him now and say, hey, you know what? I don't remember the last time I pulled you down off my shoulders.
Oh.
Could you sit on my shoulders one more time at the age of 32?
How sad.
Oh, it's not supposed to be sad. I just
Well,
think...
no, but I mean, now I'm trying to remember the last time I put my two children down because they're 38 and 40, and I can't.
I hear you. Oh, my God. I didn't mean to make you cry.
Wow, that's okay.
Angela
I love my
C.
children.
Santomero spoke to me just real briefly before we started this. She's on the phone right now. She has a book called Preschool Clues, Raising Smart, Inspired, and Engaged Kids in a Screen-Filled World. Yeah, if you can't beat them, join them, right? Put something smart on TV, and that might be a big help. And she's been already doing this. She's the co-creator of Blue's Clues. She's the creator of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, Creative Galaxy, Super Y, Wish Proof. So she kind of knows how to use the new media, I guess, to help our children become better prepared when they finally say, hello, kindergarten. Angela C. Santomero. Good morning, Angela. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I teared up a little bit, too, but I'm good.
Oh, I got all the ladies crying. I didn't mean to do that.
A little emotional.
How old are your children?
They're 17 and 14.
There you go.
And you don't remember the last time you put them down, do you?
I still try to pick them up.
Do you?
It's not bad. It's 5'11". That's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I guess that's the way life is, right?
Yeah.
So next time I see my son, can I give you a piggyback ride? Just
No.
that way I'll know what date I put you down for the last time. Angela, thank you for being on the show with us. You have some amazing credentials, and that's a lot of years of work on your part.
Oh, thank you, and I enjoy every second of it. I was inspired by Fred Rogers, and so following in his footsteps as much as I can.
Is that right? Well, Fred Rogers was an amazing man, wasn't he? Were you inspired by him? Did you know him personally, or you mean through the TV?
Well, both, right? I was that 4-year-old who couldn't get any closer to the TV, when he was on, and I would talk with him through the TV. And then as I got older, I got to meet him because of Blue's Clues, and he really liked Blue's Clues, and that was one of the shows that he liked. And so when I met him, I said, I want you to know the whole reason I wanted to children's television was because of you. And he just said, and he was like, hello, what's your name? And then invited me to set.
Oh, that's funny. So you spoke really fast to him, huh? He's a slow.
Yeah,
He's a slow
speaking. But then we became
man.
friends. Then I slowed down, and then we became friends.
So tell me, I want to learn a little bit about some of your past, but let's talk about the present first. The new book is called Preschool Clues. Tell me about this book.
So it really, we put so much research and so much time into everything that we do in our shows, and it was really important that, I talk to kids every day for so many years of my life, and I wanted to turn it around and take those clues outside of the book and show and talk to parents about what we do in terms of making sure that media is good quality media, and how we can get rid of that guilt of putting our kids in front of TV, because if we're choosing high quality content, not just my shows, but how to choose it across the board of all the shows that are on, which ones are good for you that you could put on your media yes list. It was one of those conversations I kept having, and I wanted to put it down in a book.
You know what? Part of it is, I think, and this is probably even true for the days I was a young dad, is that when you find something that you feel confident will be good, then you sort of trust the brand name, if you know what I mean. Like if it says Sesame Street, you sort of trusted it, that kind of thing. If it said Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, you trusted it, right? So, I mean, we depend on the people who do these things to be consistent with the product.
Well, right, and there's no nutrition label on a series, right? Like, so you have to trust either in the brand. And how do you do that? And with so many shows, I think it has to be knowing something about the shows now, being able to at least watch one of the shows, or look at Common Sense Media. Watch your kids watch and what they do after they watch. Are they going out and inspired to paint or play or pick up an instrument, or are they like talking sassy back to you? There's definitely many ways to kind of key in on seeing whether we're inspiring them with the content that we're putting on.
What do you say to the parent who has a child going through those years when they want to be cool? You know what I mean? Like Mr. Rogers is starting to become not so cool to them. And they're trying to figure out how to be cool, and their big brother plays video games called, Grand Theft Auto or something like that. How do you steer them? To me, that bothers me so much. I know I get picked on every time I say this, but I think some of the problems we're seeing in this country, in this world, are because of some of those games. And I'm going to get hate mail now because I get it every time I say something like that. But I don't know. It's just, you may disagree with me, but what is your thoughts on that?
I think to me, we do have to demand too many answers, I guess, to the question. But we have to demand healthy media. We have to demand good quality media, and we have to remember that everything that our kids are doing and experiencing over and over again is affecting their DNA. And again, it's not for guilt; it's for information, right? It's for us to understand how they're modeling, and that's what the book takes us through in terms of repetition and peer modeling and all of those kinds of things. They do affect our kids. And how, and there's a ton of research on just that thing as well as many others in terms of the positives, right? So I want to be fair in terms of the positive effects and also what to be wary of in terms of the negative effects. But in terms of the cool factor, I've always let my kids, we talk about everything in the sense of like, what do you need to know so that you can be part of the conversation at school without having to experience it all the time, And that's happened to us too, that we would just talk about whatever the kids are talking about at school to be able to jump into that conversation.
I like the fact that you're recognized by your peers, the heavy hitters in the industry. You've won the Peabody Award. You've had Emmy nominations, the Parents' Choice Gold Awards, and you are there with Steven Spielberg because he won the Peabody for his Animaniacs. And you do such wonderful things that it really is refreshing that you are recognized by them and not recognized by them.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that we have to come together. Everyone who's really excited about doing stuff for kids, come together, because I don't think we talk enough about kids media, right? And we're thank God talking about the nutrition and what it means to feed our kids at school in terms of the school lunches and all the conversations that are happening about giving kids a voice, that they're standing up for themselves now, and talking through things. And I think that the more we do that, and the more that we're choosing content that also fuels their brain in that way, and the more that we're talking to them about it, like we're hoping to change the world. It sounds crazy, but like we're really hoping to do that.
Yeah, there's a commercial I think that where it shows I don't know what it's a commercial for, but it shows a parent doing everything by the book for the first child, and by the time they get to the second child, they've kind of it's old hat. They know how to do it. and I often wonder if the first child, as far as the good stuff, gets shortchanged a little bit. I don't, because you've learned everything from the first child. I'm thinking a book like this, in other words, might help avoid that from happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that first pancake, right?
Yeah. Oh, I like that metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Oh, because I think the schools are finally starting to, the teachers have always listened to what the students are saying, but now since there have been the school shootings and the students themselves are coming out to use their own voices, like you had said earlier, you're encouraging students to use their voices, and now they're coming out of the closet, they're using their voices, and the school boards are starting to listen.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think it's so important. That's why when I talk about this healthy green smoothie, right? It's education, of course. It's entertaining. It has to be something kids want to watch, but it's interactive, meaning that it's causing them to think about something, or that we're pausing on the TV potentially when they're really little, and we're pausing in real life when we're having conversations with them, so that they have time to process and talk with us. And that's so important, right? That they're practicing these skills, and that we're able to say, we care about what you have to say and what you think. And again, from that young age, when we're doing that, we're inspiring them and we're empowering them, you hope, to be able to use their voice when it really matters also.
Angela C. Santomero is on the phone with us. She is the author of Preschool Clues, and she's got a whole lot of credentials. You might recognize Blues Clues is one of her products, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, Creative Galaxy, Super Y, Wish and Proof. I wanted to tell you, where are you, first of all? Let me ask you, did I ask you this already? Where are you calling from?
I'm in New York.
All right, so we live not too far from Disney World, and I have a Disney World story to tell you. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
At the Disney World is a playground for children, and then in quotes, in parentheses, and adults. Okay, so we all go there. Okay. So, and you want to get there first thing in the morning, and you want to stay there until the fireworks are done. So it's a long day. I can tell you that many times your chapter, the clue number 6, which is respect. This is what everybody they should hand these out at Disney World because.
I'm going to quote you on that.
Yeah, because I've seen this. Stop doing that. I've heard that. Right at the end of the day.
Yes.
What's wrong with you?
Exactly. If you don't be quiet, we're
come on. We're having fun.
I love that one.
Right? Yeah, and you have a more respectful way of delivering those lines, right?
Right. I mean, it is true, right? You're like whistling happy when you enter, and then by the end of the day, you just see everybody melting down, you know? And it is. I mean, there's so many ways to get at that respectful communication in terms of making sure you're fed and you're not tired. And you're figuring out, I think there's a lot of reasons to get there. But yeah, I think that respectfully communicating with our kids in a way that they understand, right? So I'm not saying that we talk about all the news and we talk about everything. If they're under 5, we answer the questions that they ask us. And we're not pedantic. We don't talk down to them. We know that they're smart and can understand and will ask the questions. So I think that that's important. And I think the more we ridicule them in that sense, right, the less that they'll want to talk and share their opinion and share their voice.
And this is an excellent tool for the law enforcement personnel that has to go to a home for domestic disturbances, and then they know that child is abused, but the child won't say anything. So you're giving them the means to communicate with that child, to at least allow them to open up, that they won't get in trouble and they won't get someone they love in trouble, but they have to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think getting on their level and looking in, that's such important work. But looking in their eyes, being at the pace, if you can, that they need, right? And that safe and secure environment will definitely have them open up at some point, right? It's not necessarily going to happen overnight or right away, right? It's just one of those things that once they trust and feel respected, that they'll talk more.
So one of the clues is to enjoy, and one of the parts of that chapter is to teach cognitive skills with music. Years and years when our children were little, Robin and I made up a song. We put a melody to the 50 states in alphabetical order.
Yeah, it was fun.
And so we would sing it in the car, right? So years later, I mean a decade later, they're in school and they come home from school. Hey, we were asked to tell the name of the states in alphabetical order, and they were singing it to us. They remembered it all those years later.
Yeah, they got it all right. The only ones in their classes.
And I don't even remember it. But they remember it. When you have a child, you've got a brain that'll absorb everything, don't you?
Yeah, and it's so sticky, right? The more that you can make it sticky, the more it stays. And that's the goal, right? It's for them to master it, not to just to learn something for the test or learn something for right now. And when we look at media, it's the same thing when I'm doing my research. It's that on the shows, because I don't want them to just learn what we're saying on this particular episode. We want them to be able to take that learning and master it, so that years later, it'll ring a bell and they'll say, oh, you know what? I thought about it this way, because of whatever it is I'm absorbed into. But it's about mastery. It's not about, right now, learning drill and skill right now.
And every advancement a child makes, the parent should recognize it. I mean, when your child is crawling and then they're starting to pull themselves up and toddling, you go, yay, you're doing such a great job. And I think that's very, very important throughout their whole life.
Yeah, and I think we get a lot of slack on that, right? Because we're not saying like effortless trophies. We're not saying things like that, but we're saying to take a minute to take a photo before Thanksgiving dinner to celebrate that time, or when they lose a tooth. Like, it's exciting the 10th time it happens as much as it is the first time for them. It's like a big deal. And realizing that even though they're little, there's a lot of big deal that things happen with them, both positive to celebrate and also things that might be stressors for them, and things that they're worried about. It's big in their world. And I think the more we remember that, the more we're celebrating childhood, right?
Does our love sometimes cause a problem? In other words, do we spoil the kids? Maybe that's the question I want to ask. I have been tempted so much to spoil kids. I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, but in every good way.
If a child looks at me and is like holding my $600 musical instrument,
yes,
and embracing it, and she says, "Uncle Larry, can I have this forever?" It's a true story, by the way.
That happens.
It's a true story. I said to Robin, can you help me with this?
He was going to cave.
I don't know how to say no.
Yeah, again, it's all within the boundaries, right? I don't believe in spoiling your child with attention, in the sense of positive reinforcement and respectful and letting them grow. I'm not saying give them everything so they never have to work for something. It's just about when we talk, you can never spoil your baby when they're crying and you're picking them up because they're basically talking to you. So it's kind of like a lot to talk about with regard to that because you just want to embrace them where they are. And no, I don't believe with that in that regard you can spoil them.
And you help them develop their own personalities by helping the parent understand that their children are not clones of themselves, that they have their own interests.
That's right. And I think that play is preschoolers speak, right? That's their language. And so sometimes you get to see who they are and what they're interested in and what they think is funny by playing with them. And I'm not saying play with them all the time, every time, but when they play and you're noticing them playing, they're working out some stuff, right? And they're showing you who they are. And I think, again, celebrating that, especially when they're little, goes a long way.
Do the parents who write to you give you an idea of what is the most challenging thing that young parents have?
So many things. I love getting people talking to me on Twitter and such, and giving us ideas of things that they want to see. Like a lot of the Daniel Tigers episodes are based on what parents want to see. But there's so many things that this screen time issue in terms of it being around us, and just realizing that you have control over it and that you could actually use it for good now and use it to promote what you want. If your kid is struggling, potentially struggling reading, there are many great reading shows that can inspire them, right? Like Super Y and others, and Word Girl on PBS. And I think that it's that kind of thing. We can use media. Your kid's having a problem with sharing. We have a Daniel Tiger episode for that, and so it's a tool to use. And I think that's how we have to think about it, right? That we can embrace it and we use it. It doesn't use us.
Do you handle faith? Since there are so many, religions in the world, do you address faith?
I don't, not directly, but I think the idea of passion and belief and all of that is definitely in preschoolers' world and in here too.
I don't know if you know it or not. The book is now #1 in child development on Amazon in that category.
Congratulations!
I didn't know that. Yay!
So it is #1.
Woo-hoo.
Let me look at the other numbers here. It's number 19 in preschool and kindergarten. It's number 63 in development, and number 113 in babies and toddlers. And for those of you who've never written a book, there are a gazillion books on Amazon. So
yeah,
anything above 1,000 is probably impressive. So, but
I came out on April 3rd.
Yeah, I saw
don't know
that.
How long you have to keep it? A couple days.
Do you also address loss?
We do. I use it as an example of how to talk to kids about it in an age-appropriate way. And we did it through a Daniel Tiger episode that we actually, and I use that as an anchor to talk about how to talk about it with your preschoolers, not just through, obviously, media, but how that could be a piece of your coping and your learning. And we do it answering kids' questions that they ask, and then what they can do with the sad that they feel.
Tell me about the business of writing books and doing shows like you do. Are you surprised by the success? Do you have a clue which ones might be successful, like before they are? What is that like? What was your first one? Like, what was your first? Oh my gosh! Look at this! This is working. Blue's Clues is everybody's.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what it is, right?
Well, first of all, I love that you used the word clue, but I did have a clue. The clue is that we do research. We go into kids all the time to find out what's in the script phase, and then we find out in an animatic phase, an early animation, and then in the final draft of the show. And so the very first time, Blue's Clues was my first show, the very first time we brought it in, and we had 50 kids watching, and they had never seen anything like it before, and they all start pointing and screaming, finding clues, and thinking through the answer, and they were all doing it. I just kind of got the goosebumps, and I was like, all right, I think we've got
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
So we had an idea.
That is amazing. Did you create the visual of? Is the dog's name Blue? Is that his name?
Dog is Blue. I have co-creator Tracy Paige Johnson, who's created her entire style, as well as, of course, brainstormed the entire show with me, and is the voice of Blue.
Nice.
Angela, you are so impressive. The book is called Preschool Clues. I have a copy of the book right here. You know what? If you are a grandparent and you had 6 children and you've got 64 grandchildren, I'm guessing you're probably still going to benefit from the information in this book, only because the world is different now, and all those little. I see kids. We went to the Bloodmobile to donate blood. And there was a child on the bus not donating blood, but his mother was donating blood, and he was sitting there with a smartphone or something. He had some kind of a device he was playing with. It's amazing to me.
Yep, it's right there. And you're going to get them out of Disney World, right? I heard you say that.
That's right.
Is that right? The book. We're going to have the book.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. No, your chapter. No, I'm gonna print up that page with all the nasty things I hear.
All right.
That's right.
You know what it is? So it's the parents, because by the time of the end of the day, you're regretting the decision to stay there till fireworks.
I know. I know. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being on the air with us. Okay, I found the book on Amazon, and I want to make sure we mention other websites you want to direct us to.
AngelaSClues.com.
Okay, and I know you've got to run. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, we will take a little break. We will be right back. This is The Source.
Hey, this year, if you truly want the nicest crepe myrtles in the neighborhood, it all starts at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens in Ocala. Now's the time to pick out your crepe myrtles, starting with those gorgeous pinks and purples, regularly $24.99, but an early season special price just $19.99 at Bob Wine's. Does Bob have roses? You bet. More roses than you can imagine, including drift roses, knockout roses, double knockout roses, tree roses, and even tea roses. And rose prices start at a low $17.99. Don't forget their completely redone greenhouse with more decor than you've ever seen in one place, and so